Google it. She grew up in the foothills of Georgia. Her family introduced her to the great outdoors on horseback, four-wheelers, and hikes in the woods surrounding her home. She has a degree in biology from the Kennesaw State University, and since graduating, Katie has worked seasonally for the National Park Service, Tennessee State Parks, and several of Asheville's most reputable guiding companies. So welcome, Katie.
Thank you, Christy. I appreciate the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for registering for the Lunch and Learn presentation today, Women in the Wilderness, Situational Awareness, Self-Defense, and Wilderness First Aid. Today's presentation will teach you a few tips and tricks on how to stay safe in the wilderness with an emphasis on female safety in the backcountry. So thank you, Christy, again for introducing me. A little bit more about my background. So I'm a wilderness first responder, which means I've completed an intensive 9-day training program on how to respond to emergencies in an outdoor setting. I first began exploring the wilderness areas during my time as a tour guide in Yellowstone National Park. And since then, I have lived and worked in some of the most remote wildernesses in the lower 48 states, including the vast Sawtooth Wilderness in Idaho and the wild shores of the Texas coast. More recently, I have started working as a guide and naturalist for several local eco tour guiding businesses in Asheville, where I have led groups of hikers into the Pisgah National Forest, the Shining Rock Wilderness, and up along the Blue Ridge Parkway. So I'm an avid backpacker and hiker, and one of my favorite places in the area to go wander around in is the scenic and beautiful and rugged Linville Gorge Wilderness. So currently, I am thrilled to have joined the Southern Appalachian Highland Conservancy, where I now work as the Community Engagement and Education AmeriCorps member. So if you've ever hiked in some of the local wilderness areas surrounding Asheville, you may have seen one of these warning signs. In April of 2019, these informational signs were installed and have decreased search and rescue calls in Haywood County by 50%. This is a great example of how a little bit of communication, preparedness, and having realistic expectations can make all the difference between your day hike turning into a night rescue. So, kind of just start with today, I'd like to introduce you all to a concept, an important concept called situational awareness. I'm going to break down this concept into 4 easy to remember principles. So just to start, in our modern world of technology, it's pretty easy to get lost in our phones, whether you're listening to music, following your GPS, responding to a text message, to even just taking a photo. So situational awareness is all about knowing where you are and what is going on around you. It's pretty basic. At the heart of it, it's just remembering to stay alert, oriented, and aware at all times. And it's truly one of the most powerful tools you can use to stay safe in the backcountry. So the first principle of situational awareness is alert, which means being fully aware of one's surroundings at all times, recognizing suspicious persons or wildlife and having an escape plan, overcoming denial and accepting reality. And the takeaway here is just be aware of your surroundings. It's really at the heart of situational awareness. Staying alert is probably the most important tool you have with you at all times if you remember to use it. The second principle of situational awareness is inform, which means communicating to a trusted individual the details of your trip plans, such as your intended location and expected return time, informing other members in your group, law enforcement, and first responders of an incident. The takeaway here is just a little communication can go a long way, especially if something goes wrong in a wilderness setting where communication may be more difficult. The third principle of situational awareness is counter, which means taking stock of objects that are within reach and can be used to thwart an attack, being able to create a noise, movement, and distance to distract from a threat from wild animal, dog, or person. So the takeaway here, knowing what items you have available and your own physical capabilities, which could provide a last resort option of escape. And the fourth principle of situational awareness is evacuate, which means being aware of all entry points to a building, trail, or river and other means of evacuation in an emergency, knowing where the nearest roads and emergency services are located. So again, the takeaway, just being aware of all the nearest exit and other non-traditional means of evacuation, which may help to increase your chances of escape and of being aided by emergency services. So that's a lot of information right there. But the big key takeaway again is that being situationally aware is the most important tool you have if you choose to use it. Now, ladies out there who are into hiking and camping and mountain biking, I think this is something where we could all work on more, is just being aware of our surroundings. I think as a female, it's easy to be shy. Maybe you see a hiker kind of coming towards you or someone else riding a mountain bike. And I know personally, I'm actually quite shy. And sometimes, you forget to kind of like make eye contact and to be aware. It's very easy to kind of get lost in your thoughts and the beautiful trees around you. But I cannot overemphasize the importance of staying alert and aware at all times. I mean, it really is, probably your best tool you have. Like bear spray is great, pocket knives, very handy. But being aware and avoiding getting yourself into a difficult situation to begin with is probably the way to go. All right, live to tell the tale, wear safety gear. Self-defense, it's a crucial part of staying safe in the backcountry. And by carrying a variety of safety gear, you really increase your odds of having a tool on hand that you can use in a self-defense situation. Again, situational awareness says to be aware of all objects in your immediate vicinity that could be used as a tool. So knowing how to properly use your safety gear is critical, since an improperly deployed weapon can be just as disadvantageous as knowing how to use it. So keep all your safety gear easily accessible in a place where you can reach it. You just never know when you might need something quickly. A few things that I think are great examples of gear to bring with you when you're out and about in the wilderness. Physical map. I think a lot of us use our phones for mapping. We've got different mapping software, and those are certainly great. But nothing beats having a physical map that you can just have with you at all times, regardless if your cell phone runs out of battery. So, physical map. Flashlight, headlamp with extra batteries. I like to keep my batteries kind of separate until I need to use it, or until I go on a hiking trip, because those batteries can corrode in your headlamp or flashlight. Always bring extra clothing. If you're living in North Carolina like I am, we have like 6 different types of weather in one day. So having the correct gear, wearing layers, really will go a long ways in your safety and comfort. So extra gear, gloves, hat, jacket, rain gear, sunglasses, extra food and water, waterproof matches in a waterproof container, candle, fire starter, some great ideas there. A few other things, we've got personal locator beacon. So this is kind of specialized gear that, if something happens in a remote area and you don't have cell phone service, it'll send a repeater or send a signal to local repeaters and pretty quickly alert emergency services. So if you work out in remote areas, or if you happen to go backpacking out in the Linville Gorge or up in the Shining Rock Wilderness frequently, you may want to consider investing in a personal locator beacon. I think they're wonderful, and I wish everyone had one who goes outside. The only downside to those is that they can be a little bit pricey, in the $200 to $300 range, depending on which brand you go with. Okay, now finally for my favorite, bear spray. Like I mentioned, I used to work in Yellowstone National Park, and that's where I learned all about bear spray. If you've never seen a can of bear spray, it just looks like a can of hairspray, but it's got like a little trigger on the top and a little safety latch as well. It's basically concentrated mace. So the main constituent is capsaicin, which comes from hot peppers. And the idea is that it sprays, kind of creates this cloud, this wall of, like aerosolized pepper. So if you have a wild animal running at you, a person, a dog, anything like that, maybe a cow, you could use your bear spray. So I've actually got a great video I'll play for you all here in just a minute. All right, so paracord rope, cell phone, extra battery pack. That's something I've started carrying more, is just a way to charge my cell phone when I'm not, if I'm out camping or on a long extended hike. Air horn could be great for, wild animals, hiking poles, backpack. You can actually use the backpack to shield the back of your neck from attack from wild animals, mountain lions, bears. That's something I always bring with me, is a sturdy backpack, and it's how you can carry all your stuff. So also carrying with you a loud whistle. Some backpacks like Osprey brands had a built-in whistle right on the chest strap. I think it's just a great idea. So always, if you don't have one built into your backpack, they're like $5 at any outdoor store. So, and they're super lightweight. So always bring a whistle or an air horn. Visible clothing, in case you are lost and someone's looking for you. I've been on many search and rescues where people are just difficult to find because they were wearing green or black or something. So I like to suggest wearing bright, visible colors. And again, a map. So those are just some ideas. It's not a comprehensive list, but generally what I like to carry. See here, got this video. This is Brad Boleyn. I actually work with this gentleman out in Yellowstone National Park. And he has a great demonstration on how to use bear spray.
I'm Brad Boleyn with the Yellowstone Forever Institute. I'm here today to talk to you about bear safety and about bear spray, when and how to use it. So if you live in bear country, you need to be a little cautious. You don't want to get too close to a bear. Before we even get to using bear spray, hopefully you'd never be in that situation, because there's some things you can do to prevent it. Making noise, hiking in groups, pay attention to things like the wind that'll carry your smell to or away from the bear. A noisy river where the bear can't hear you. As a general rule, you never want to surprise a bear. However, if all of that doesn't work and you find yourself in one of those close situations with a bear, where that bear is running up on you or it's right there in front of you, bear spray can be an amazing tool. It's been proven to be extremely effective at keeping that bear away or limiting an attack if, unfortunately, you get into that realm. What bear spray is basically a high dose of pepper that goes right into that nose and that sensitive nasal membrane area of a bear and the eyes, burns the eyes, and it works quite well. So it comes in a package much like this. There's a few different varieties, but it looks like a little fire extinguisher. There's a safety valve on the top that needs to come off, and then a quick press down will release a mist of high-dose pepper. So because of wind and other things with that bear moving at you quickly, you want to make sure you create a wall in front of that bear. So I'm going to spray side to side to create a big wall of mist that bear has to run through, even if there's some wind that day. So here it goes. These last about 6 or 8 seconds. So if the bear is a ways away, you might want to do a shorter spray than that. Give it a chance to maybe detect that pepper and then have that big spray ready when it's much closer. So bear spray, again, very effective tool. Mix that with making noise and hiking in groups and paying attention to what's around you, and you should be able to have a very safe, pleasant time in bear country.
All right, so hope you enjoyed Brad showing you how to use bear spray. Fortunately, I've never actually had to use it in person, but I have gotten to practice with some kind of empty bear spray canisters. So, it's something that's pretty lightweight, easy to carry. It's about $40. You can actually buy it on Amazon. So if you live in bear country or even just anywhere with wildlife, I would highly recommend bear spray. Okay, so another thing on my list of safety gear is I've started to use my cell phone more and more in the outdoors. I think just about everybody has started to realize the power that our cell phones have in allowing us to explore the outdoors in a lot of different ways. So there's a few apps I have learned about that I think are just wonderful if you are into outdoor recreation. Highly recommend taking a look at and downloading the free version of a couple of these apps. This first one here is called Cairn, which is the name for those stacks of rocks you see in rivers where people shouldn't be stacking rocks, or maybe sometimes on a trail to mark the trail. So this is Cairn, hiking and outdoor safety. I haven't used this one a whole lot, but it's pretty highly rated. So there's a great free version. So check out Cairn. Another one that I've recently discovered is called Gaia GPS. So in addition to bringing your physical map, you can also download Gaia GPS on your phone. It's great for tracking in real time, where you're at on a trail. You can actually record your track for later reference. It's got all kinds of just great features, extremely user friendly. It's probably one of my favorite hiking apps to use. It'll give you elevation, distance. You can add waypoints to your track. And it's just got some great detailed maps. It'll show you all kinds of good stuff to know about. So that's Gaia GPS. And you've probably heard of All Trails if you're into the outdoors and hiking or biking or running. All Trails is a great place for finding inspiration for somewhere new to explore. I think we all kind of can get into a rut about where we like to hike or go recreate in the outdoors. So All Trails, great place for inspiration. It's also just a really good app to do some research on any new trails. It's got all kinds of recent reviews, which I think is a helpful feature. So you can actually read through, reviews as recently as a couple days to a month or two, and just kind of get a more real-time idea of trail conditions. So All Trails, I think, is just fun to use, great for inspiration, and it's got some really cool built-in safety features, just kind of like the being able to read about the reviews. So it's a good place to learn about things that might not just be advertised in a trail description. So that's All Trails. And then another app I recommend having, I think most people probably have a weather app on their phone, but finding a weather app that you trust and setting up notifications for inclement weather. So this could be high winds, it could be, heavy rain, lightning in the area. I like WeatherBug. I actually have a couple different weather apps because I can't decide on a favorite. But WeatherBug seems to be pretty annoying with their notifications, which is what I want. I want something that, I'm not going to miss a notification or doesn't send it in time. So I actually like something that's kind of annoying and sends too many notifications, because then I'm more likely to see, oh, hey, there's lightning in the area. There's another good one called, was it Storm Watch? I've got Storm Shield. Storm Shield. I also like My Radar. So you can even be like me and collect weather apps. A lot of fun. So that's those are a few apps that I recommend looking into. And of course, there's just hundreds more to mention than I have time for. All right, so just gonna touch briefly here on wilderness first aid. It's not too different than a general or a basic first aid class, but there is an emphasis on how to approach emergency situations, medical situations in more of a wilderness or backcountry setting. So, like I said, I've actually taken a whooper class before. It was about 9 days. That certification will last for 2 years, at which point you can recertify and then have it for another 2 years. If it's something you need for work, or that it's important to keep the certification active and up to date, it's definitely worth just recertifying when you're in that grace period, rather than waiting for it to lapse and having to take the entire 9-day class all over again. So unfortunately, my certification has lapsed. And if I ever needed that for a job or for anything, I would have to take the whole class again. But again, I've taken the 9-day class, many wilderness first aid classes. And if you're new to wilderness first aid, and you're interested in the outdoors, or you find yourself going out hiking or canoeing or horseback riding, eagle riding, whatever you like, I would definitely recommend taking a wilderness first aid class or course. Generally, they're about 2 days, 16-hour period, and it's a great way to prepare yourself for the unexpected. So it'll help you to feel more confident about your outdoor adventures. And it's really, wilderness first aid training is best suited for those who recreate in the outdoors, where EMS response can be expected in a timely manner. So that's generally fewer than 8 hours. So the idea is they're not training you how to become an EMT or a paramedic. This is just a very basic training of how to be a first responder to a situation. So you'll learn things like patient assessment system, how to provide effective first aid treatments for injuries and illnesses common in the outdoors, and how to make appropriate evacuation decisions. So highly recommend taking a wilderness first aid class. Okay. So you might say, oh, that sounds great. Now, like, where do you go? There's actually a ton of locations that offer both wilderness first aid, woofer, wilderness first responder, swiftwater rescue. I mean, they're everywhere. So if you happen to be in the Western North Carolina area, I would recommend a few different locations. We've got the Nantahala Outdoor Center in OC. It's the one in Asheville. It's one of 7 scattered throughout the Southeast and the Carolinas. There's Landmark Learning in Silva. That's where I went. They have a brand new facility there. It's kind of this crazy little place tucked away in a holler, not too far from the French Broad River. But yeah, they have this like state of the art, beautiful new training center. So if you're looking for a little adventure, check out Landmark Learning in Silva. I'm biased. It's a great place. Really great instructors as well. And then, of course, there's the Knowles National Outdoor Leadership School. You can find their classes all over the country, and they are generally kind of the standard for wilderness first aid and first responder courses. And then another resource is REI. So if you're in Asheville, we've got an REI. They're always offering, all this kind of stuff. So check out their calendar, and also be sure to check out some of the local outdoor stores or out guiding businesses. Oftentimes they offer these types of courses as well. So keep your eye out, and definitely consider taking some kind of medical training for wilderness settings if you're into the outdoors. All right, y'all, that's all I have today. This was a pretty broad topic in my first presentation in a long time. So I hope I gave you all some good information, and I'd like to open the floor to any questions or comments right now. And again, just want to say thank you for listening in to the Lunch and Learn today. All right, doesn't look like we've got any questions. Let's see, Christy, do I have to set up the chat? Oh, still learning how to use all this. All right, well, thanks everyone. Be safe in the outdoors. I've got my email there at the very end of the slideshow. If you think of any questions, or you need any, recommendations on where to go find wilderness first aid training, shoot me an email, and I'd love to hear from you. All right, thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone.